We can all agree that religion should probably be kept out of the classroom, right? Especially sex ed. I would hope we can agree on that. You know, if you want to go to church, if you want to teach your kids your religion, I may have my protestations, but I would rather my tax dollars not fund it, personally. I think tax dollars should go to helping people, not indoctrinating them. So, what do we have here instead? We have some audio from a health class that I think we should all take a listen to. If you haven't listened to this already, you're in for a ride.
When you get in 7th grade, we go a tad bit further, and then when you get in 8th grade, we start studying how dangerous sexual thinking and behavior, what it can do to you.
How dangerous sexual thinking is. It's just sexual thinking and behavior. And yes, sex is dangerous. Sex can be dangerous. But sexual thinking? Just thinking. Okay.
Okay? And the one thing is, I'm hoping that you all are brought up by a good family or person, whoever's raising you, that they're teaching you right from wrong, and that it's not okay to be sexually active.
So, a health class teacher who should be teaching children that, you know, when it comes time for them to be sexually active, that there are things you need to do to protect yourself, is instead going with the abstinence-only method of education, which we have seen time and again actually leads to higher transference rates of STDs, higher rates of teen pregnancy, just in general. And not to mention, it's morally shaming to people. If you have somebody who is sexually active, and you're shaming them for being sexually active, that's gross. Just throwing that out there.
If you look at the Bible, it says, sex isn't for love, it is for what? When is the time you should? After marriage. After marriage.
Okay, so we have sex isn't for love. You don't have sex for love, apparently, which is bullshit. Sex is for making babies. The only thing you can possibly have sex for is making babies. Now, first of all, I want to say that this is disgusting rhetoric to tell to kids. Because if they get to the point, like when they get to the point, if they are inclined to have sex, when they are old enough to, there's nothing wrong with having sex with the person you love. If you and the person you love consent to it, that's fine. And saying that that's not okay, that kind of basically slut-shaming is shitty. And it doesn't do anybody any good. It creates a very, very abused mentality. Secondly, this is a health class in a public school. Why is the Bible coming into this? If the teacher's a Christian, that's fine. You know, whatever. You be a Christian. Go do that in your own home. But don't indoctrinate children. And especially don't indoctrinate children and try to police their sex lives when they're older. You're not teaching them anything of value. You're brainwashing them.
So many kids that were so against me in my first and second period, you would have a heart attack.
So many kids in your first and second period are against you? Good. Good. No, seriously. Seriously. Good. There should be more. Easily.
It makes me sick how they believe. And I'm thinking, the upbringing that you guys are having from your parents. I'm not saying nothing bad about your parents. It's just...
Imagine. I'm not saying anything bad about your parents, but I just said something bad about your parents. And also, imagine being a kid and being told that the teacher is disgusted with everybody in their classes. Just think about that. If your teacher's saying that about the first and second period of class, what is she saying about you? What is she saying about you?
Different nowadays, and I hate it. They say all you do is you everything you're teaching about sexual transmitted disease stuff. You keep referring back to the Bible. And I said, because, I almost said because I'm right, but...
That is not... If you're going to talk about sexually transmitted diseases, the Bible is not going to be the thing you use for that. Okay? The germ theory of disease was not considered during biblical times. So maybe, just maybe, your Bible isn't the book to use here. Secondly, if you're going to be a snarky ass and just go, well, because I'm right, then you don't need to be a fucking teacher. You don't. I'm sorry. Any teacher who, when given, when asked a question about why they are referencing to a certain material that engages in that kind of fallacy does not need to be teaching, because you are demonstrating that your methods are shit.
You know, you can't force somebody to believe in God. And that's, whether you do or not, that's your opinion. But I just can't get my head into there where people don't really think there's I don't know, I'm just kind of shocked. They'll know one day, won't they?
All right, so this is basically a stream of consciousness from the teacher right now, where we've begun the conversation about sex ed, and there's already yikesy territory there being handled. But now we are in this stream of consciousness where the teacher is having to consider that she can't understand why somebody wouldn't believe in God. Well, I can understand why somebody wouldn't believe in God. I'm an atheist, and I can understand why somebody would believe in God. I did for over 18 years. But her, as a fully functioning adult trying to teach children, cannot step into somebody's shoes and understand this. And then she hits you with the, they'll know one day, won't they? Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what happens, for those who are in the chat, if you are a Christian and you believe in God, you go to heaven. But if you're not a Christian and you don't believe in God, where do you go? Where do you go? Just asking. Just asking. What happens? Please tell me. Because to me it reads like a thinly veiled threat. You'll know one day when God barbecues you. And that's just not okay. That's just not okay. I don't think it is, at least, personally.
That's what worries me. I don't want anybody to be lost. So I try to squeeze him in a little bit without getting in too much trouble.
So now the teacher is basically admitting that she toes the line constantly. She doesn't want people to go to hell, so she tries to squeeze in the indoctrination every now and again, just without getting into too much trouble, you know. She doesn't think about what her actions actually are doing to people, but she knows what the consequences of those actions could be to her. She knows it could get her in trouble. But she's doing it anyway.
But there's so many kids that don't believe in God and they don't believe in values, and they don't care whatever they do, however way they want to dress, whatever way they want to act. If they want to be with a boy or a girl, that's their choice, and that's fine. I'm not arguing.
Okay, but if you're bringing any of that up, that reads to me like you've got some misgivings about people falling in love with people who have the same sex as them. Whenever you do the whole, if they want to do that, that's their choice. I'm not arguing. Why? How did that even come up in the conversation? This is a monologue. This is your stream of consciousness. Why does gay sex come into your consciousness randomly while dealing with a health class after you just got done talking about kids getting barbecued?
I'm just saying, I don't believe in that. And it's just a fight battle. I'm trying to...
And there it is. She just doesn't believe in gay people. Idiot.
Teach you guys, when you learn about the body, you need to understand that when your hormones start being released, you're going to start having a little bit of sexual feelings or thoughts. That's normal. Everybody does that. The thing is, you have to learn to control those hormones.
Okay, that's fine, but in what way? See, it's one thing to say, yeah, when you start having your hormones act up, you need to learn how to control your impulses. You need to learn how to function as an adult in society who has urges and impulses. That's normal and fine. But based on everything else that we've heard during this track, directly after talking about how she doesn't condone homosexuality, it sounds like telling a homosexual person that they need to control being homosexual. Maybe this could have been placed in a different place during her stream of consciousness, because placed in tandem with the talks about homosexuality, this sounds... It doesn't sound like it's just saying, be a well-adjusted adult.
When they start getting released, yeah, you're going to start thinking differently. That's just normal action. That's what happens. Okay? And it's going to happen between 9 and 18 or 19 years old. You're going to start thinking that way. Okay? There's nothing wrong with it. The thing is you've got to choose what are you going to do about those feelings and thoughts. And if you're brought up with morals and values, then God's going to be there to help you make better decisions.
And there it is. This is either her trying to go on the premarital sex is bad tangent from the beginning of the conversation, or this is her mentioning how God doesn't like homosexual sex from that moment in the conversation. It's one of the two. Especially after having the conversation about children and barbecue. This is like what happens when somebody says it's okay to be different, but then they give you like all the reasons why they don't agree with you being different or thinking differently or existing differently, regardless of whether or not you have a choice. This is disgusting. If I found out that my child was in a classroom and this is what the teacher was saying to them, then I would be having a one-on-one confrontation with the teacher the very next day.
You're going to mess up, right? We all mess up all the time. Okay? I'm just trying to tell you to be very careful, because when the hormones start being released, it's like they're uncontrollable. But you guys are the ones that you've got to get a grip on that on those hormones, because they will ruin your life if you don't.
Okay. And while fair, maybe the conversation could have begun and ended with, hey, you're going to have hormones, and they're going to make you feel impulses, and unless somebody else wants to reciprocate those impulses, you need to get a hold of them. You need to put a stopper on them. That's a fine message. That's not what this message was, though. It sounded like that's what it was trying to be, but it was so thoroughly poisoned by everything else in it. It was so thoroughly poisoned by the religious rhetoric that message couldn't come across. We instead got a message about homophobia, and we got a message about children burning in hell because they didn't believe the same way the teacher did. And we get a message about not being okay with other people's choices, but accepting that they exist there. This whole stream of consciousness, all it seemed to accomplish was cementing that maybe this person does not need to be working in education, especially since they slipped in that little part where they said, oh, no, I know I might get in trouble. I know that I'm doing a bad, but I got to toe that line. I got to do it little by little. Just a little bit at a time. That alone is enough for me to just go, maybe you shouldn't be teaching kids. Either stop. Oh, but you're not going to stop because you already admitted that that's a thing you're going to keep doing. Or just go seek out employment elsewhere. Or, fucking retire. Because that's not okay. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. This audio has been making the rounds to a lot of people, and I am not okay with this particular scenario. I'm I want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to support my work and what I do, then there are links in the description below where you can do that. And as always, everyone, Insert end of video tagline here.